Welcome back, Smite Draft Leagues fans, for another great set of the Scouting Grounds. Today we have the Immortal Division on the side of the order. We have Highlanders versus Beastmasters on the Chaos. You've got me, Cosmic Warrior, joined by my co-caster, Jeering. How you feeling today, Jeering?
I'm feeling quite alright. We got ourselves a pretty gnarly matchup tonight. This should be a pretty interesting one for the Immortal Division Scouting Grounds. I'm seeing some upcoming talent here. What do you think?
Absolutely. People are putting on some absolute shows in these Scouting Ground games, and I think we're going to have a great season. But how you feeling so far about these bands so far? I'm not surprised by anything. How about you?
I'm not entirely surprised by any of these either. We'll see a Fenrir that's pretty annoying right now, and especially with the Ultimate Ragnarok, you can really get somebody out of position. It's a very quick way to get those good early picks. And Ao Kwang, well, Ao Kwang is kind of a menace right now. I'm not surprised by that at all. I think
Yes.
the thing I would have to say is maybe Thor seems a little different to me.
Thor isn't quite as much of a permaban as Fenrir and Ao Kwang and even Hebo now, for that matter. I can't say I disagree with you on that one too much. He is really strong with Bluestone in the jungle, but perhaps there are some stronger picks. Maybe that stronger pick is Mercury. How you feeling about that?
Mercury does feel pretty strong right now, especially since crit does feel pretty solid. But I'm almost expecting to see some of the mid laners get prioritized here. Somebody that has really good burst potential, since both mid and jungle are really, really strong at the moment. They have a lot of damage potential, but those mitigation builds from the solo laners are also quite a threat. So that might be why we're seeing a Kokolin picked up so early.
Very true. Those mitigation builds are absolutely devious. Solo laners become completely unkillable by late game, and kind of as you're saying, those big burst mages, Kronos, definitely a burst mage can absolutely annihilate you with Polynomicon. Do you expect to see that in the mid lane, or do you think this is a more magical ADC focus and we'll see him in the duo lane?
I think it's possible to run it in either right now, but I would expect to see Kronos in mid a little bit more often.
I think I
Just because,
agree.
like you said, that Polynomicon is very, very powerful right now, and the effect that you can get off of that, especially if you pop the Kronos 2, get that fourth quarter with the, what is it, 35% increased basic attack damage,
I believe that's
you
correct.
just swing.
Swing, and so does Maui swinging on that sun with his three. Very, very strong dual lane god right now. One of the highest pressure guardians, I believe, in the game. I'm not so surprised to see him there. Curious to see how they're going to pair that one. And we see the Jing Wei. Interesting, interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
I do love the Maui, especially after Genetics put on a masterclass, so everybody wants to
No
feel a
kidding.
little bit closer to the GOAT. The Jing Wei feels slightly odd pick to me, just because Maui being such a high pressure god in the duo lane, and then Jing Wei, who is extremely passive and plays around late game. It just feels like an odd combination to me. Either they're playing around that later CC team fight, or they're using the Maui's early pressure to get the Jing Wei into a more comfortable position.
I'm inclined to agree with you there. Finish up the first rounds of picks, we see an Achilles. Now, we see two warriors on Beastmaster's side. Do you think potentially they're going for magical ADC and then a physical support, or could this potentially even be an Achilles jungle? What do you think?
I think it's possible to see an Achilles in the jungle, but if I had to take a guess on anything, I'm gonna put my money on Kukulin going solo, just because him having access to that bluestone and that little bit of extra mitigations really gives him the extra time. Just do what he does best. Get in the back line, toss some people around, go absolutely ham with his enrage, and really just cause a lot of damage.
I completely agree. Moving on to the next set of bands, we see Thanatos, someone who can definitely dish out tons and tons of damage with the Bluestone in the jungle, can really be devastating with his execute. And on the opposite side, we see two mage bands. Yu Huang, I can understand. And Janus, not one we see too often. Do you think Janus is a priority ban here?
I don't know if I would say Giannis being a priority ban. The mobility can definitely be annoying, especially when the team already has somebody like Mercury and Jingwei, who do have high mobility, but I don't know if that's the priority target. Perhaps it's just to take a couple things off the board to give them a little bit more time to get what they want.
Good point indeed. And we see the Scylla getting picked up. So, I think that probably means it's going to be Kronos in the duo lane and more than likely Scylla in the mid lane. Um, Definitely fits that category of burst style mages, one of the highest burst gods in the game. I mean, when you think burst, you think Scylla.
I think the only other mage that really comes close to that type of burst that Scylla provides is really kind of Zeus, but even then, that's mostly because of the fact that he has kind of ridiculous poke, just throwing a thunderbolt onto his shield and then detonating the charges from about 3 kilometers away.
Very, very true. And we see Atlas getting locked in on the other side. Presumably in the solo lane, if I had to guess, we've seen some Guardians in the solo lane with that new tablet, the recently buffed tablet getting built. And looks like we also have a Najah. Man, I'm not too sure what to think about this draft. We don't see any traditional mage. Potentially some that could flex towards the mid lane. We might see a damage Atlas in the mid lane. What are you thinking? Because I'm not sure where this team comp is headed.
I would have to assume Atlas mid, just because of the fact that of the two Guardians on the field, he has more damaging abilities. Also, the fact that he has a higher number of abilities that do damage, but I I think you're right when you said it's a very unusual team because we have two assassins and two guardians.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe Indonesia on the solo Atlas in the mid lane, and on the other side we see Xing Chen to finish us up. I think you are correct about that Achilles jungle, but we're gonna see it all happen in game number one of the Scouting Grounds Immortal Division. We'll see you there.
taking shots at the enemy. I'm gonna make it to the top, leave a legacy. If I got something to say, you better let me speak. Turn it up a new degree, bitch, you ain't seen anything. I pop off with the new rock, electronic, blow the sonic roof up. I'm too honest when I take a few shots. They're too toxic, need to take the noose off. And you cannot save me, 'cause I don't need saving. It's everything I've been chasing, all here for the taking. Don't wanna test your luck with me, I think I've had enough disease. I'm sick of all the bad thoughts, people who are half-nots. You are not as tough as I'm back, you know that I never left. I got tracks and some music that you never guess. I don't slack, don't lose, learn your lesson yet. When I get to choose what I do, I'm like a weapon. I'm not sharp as many, but got hard. I'm ready to change scars to envy, to win large and plenty. I like to play fast, never change back. Calling out, I'll pay back, 'cause I'm great at that. Oh, you cannot save me.
And we're back, and we were close, but no cigar. We got the Achilles jungle right, but it's actually looking like a Ninja mid. That's definitely interesting. I'm still Cosmic Warrior, joined by Jeering. Now this is gonna be a fun watch. That's all I gotta say.
I have to agree. I don't know how Ninja plans on clearing those mid waves too often, especially without the jungler to help on some of those waves, but you know what? It's going to be a fun match. I think they had a lot of fun playing it. So, let them have fun. Already got an aggressive dive in.
Very aggressive. Fenix getting super low. Not quite able to finish him off. I mean, just that Mercury grab into that sash was nearly lights out for Fenix in the mid lane. Able to escape with the skin of his teeth, though.
It was an extremely aggressive blink in and almost died for it, but in return, both Mercury and Naija almost died trying to get the kill. Meanwhile, Scylla is plenty healthy.
Very true, and it looks like, they're having to play back in that mid lane, because as you said, they're struggling a bit on the wave clear, even with the jungler that are help. Mercury, not the best assassin when it comes to clearing lane waves.
Speaking of clearing lane waves, the Beastmaster duo lane, Maui and Jingwei, not having quite as much fun trying to clear those waves either. Definitely taking them a little bit longer than Kronos and Jing Chen.
Yeah, absolutely. With Jingwei tending to struggle a lot, not being known for the best clears. I just mentioned about Mercury. Kronos with that 5-second cooldown. But here, Phoenix is with the double stun. Beats forced out. OLK getting super low, but not quite enough damage. Wow. Phoenix getting aggressive on this Achilles jungle. It's definitely what I'm liking to see, and definitely kind of been the name of the game in Season 10 as far as jungle's concerned.
I'm just going to throw this one out there. If he didn't blink in on mid and had blink for that gank in duo, I think that might have been a kill.
Very well could have been. Not quite nearly enough damage in the mid lane. Still able to very safely dash out. Over in the solo lane, looks like DeputyLucky, excuse me. He's definitely struggling a little bit on this Atlas solo. He does have a conduit for some extra wave clear, but I mean, Colin is super dominant right now. A really good bluestone user.
Colin's also just really strong on his own without that bluestone.
Absolutely.
The barbed spear actually stunning the minions is really powerful of an effect. You might actually see the aggression turn on to the Beastmasters here.
Trying to go for a blue invade. They don't see Virtually here. He's chilling. Is not able to secure the blue. Let's go the way of the Beastmaster. Dashing in. Bit of scrapping. Bit of Highlander. I think I've been referring to the wrong teams this whole time. Anyway, Highlander showing their prowess right now. We're able to get that blue buff, and they just take their win and back off.
Beastmasters almost had a very, very powerful combination. Mercury dash to throw them into Atlas's pluck, drag them into tower. Fenix was almost in a little bit of trouble there, but unfortunately they weren't able to pull off this time.
Yeah, that could definitely be a very devastating combo at this stage of the game. Tower is going to absolutely chunk you. So far,
Invite.
see
Sorry.
a bit, no problem at all. See a bit of a gold lead, about 900, 800 or so in way of Highlander. Very interesting Mercury. As soon as you get that Golden Blade on, you tend to be able to hyper farm the jungle, with that not being as strong right now in Season 10. Ganking definitely being more in the way these the style of jungler you want to play.
Absolutely. The Golden Blade really allowing that extra farm, but in this meta, it feels a little bit more like early pressure is the name of the game. And unfortunately, Golden Blade is not the ideal one.
Virtually getting stunned by Asian, or gets stunned by Maui. And here comes Fenix dashing in. Mercurial charging up. But he doesn't commit to it. It would have been very dangerous. Scylla coming in. Beautiful I'm a Monster by Dark. Able to find 2 kills. Not quite able to land the second mark, though. Virtually escaping with his life. Can't say the same for the Beastmaster's dual lane. Both Maui and Jingwei falling to the clutches of Highlander.
Both Phoenix and Dark got that little execute there. Scylla with I'm a Monster and Achilles with Fatal Strike. Both getting 1 kill each. That's going to be a very good pickup for the Highlanders.
Definitely how you want to start out a game. It's going to lead to a lot of early potential. Right now they can look to pressure out other side lanes. Looks like Beastmaster trying to cover some of their losses and take some of these mid camps. Darknms spotting them out, I think, but not really committing to anything.
At this point, it's a little bit too early to go for those kills since Scylla's early clear does struggle a little bit on those lane minions, so he's not able to go for too much pressure. So getting that extra farm for the Beastmasters is going to be great while they can.
Definitely really knowing their matchups well, but Fenix getting very aggressive. Looks like you maybe even going for a tower dive here. Soulzc not looking the healthiest. Could potentially fall under that threshold, assuming Fatal Strike is back up from the previous gank. I'd imagine it is.
It's only going to be seconds away at this point. Soulzc getting out of dodge while he can. He was at quite a risk of just getting ganked from behind. That could have turned out very poorly for him.
Definitely could have. Looks like they've done a successful job of wasting Phoenix's time, as he's not able to find any available jungle camps, not able to find any ganks, but, you know, he's just going to solo gank, diving the tower. Seems ill-advised.
Trying to secure that purple buff away from the Beastmasters, but unfortunately, it's only going to result in a counter gank from the rest of the Beastmasters coming in to try and aid him.
Virtually looks like he's wanting to start a fight. Looks like he's just going to go poke, and honestly, that definitely seems like a big W for Beastmasters, waiting a lot of Phoenix's time. Wasn't quite able to get anything out of that very long rotation. Started around the mid tower. He's looking at Soulzc, rotating all the way to the purple on left side. And ultimately, he just has to back off.
It will be unfortunate, especially since that's a lot of time wasted for somebody who built Golden Blade, not clearing camps. So it will give the Beastmaster's jungler a little bit of extra time. Maybe Virtually will be able to get himself a little bit of a lead off of that.
I'm surprised that Ring Bounce can reach both bastions. Well, I guess Ring Bounce actually has a pretty high radius. Darknms looking a little low. Virtually trying to find something cheeky. Potentially. Nah, not quite wanting to commit to anything too drastic right now, with Fenix sitting right there with a little Winds of Rage ready to be cast at a moment's notice.
Dark will definitely have to be a little bit extra careful in this match. In fact, Dark is the only one that signed up as Platinum. Everybody else in this lobby signed up as either Diamond or Masters player. So he's a little bit on the back foot.
Yeah, so we see both supports building Prophetic Cloak. It was kind of introduced. It's supposed to be an option to build instead of Gauntlet. Which one do you tend to prefer to see, Gauntlet or Cloak?
I think both are fine options. It's just a little bit of a different playstyle. Prophetic Cloak benefits those aggressive players who really get in and deal the damage to stack it early, versus Thieves is just all around a solid item.
Ooh,
Classic
Fenix
import.
in over his head. The Mercury ult quickly shutting him down. Soulzc picks up the final hit, and Fenix getting punished for his aggressive invade that he tried to do.
That was very, very aggressive, especially without too many wards on the map. They didn't have any vision on the entire Gold Fury side of the map, so trying to steal that yellow buff was a little bit too dangerous, and he did end up paying for it.
He definitely paid the ultimate price. Yeah, as you said, just not the best ward vision as far as Highlander. He was definitely in over his head. Soulzc getting aggressive. Sash out of Dark. I believe that was Beads. Whirlwind of Rage goes down. Naja ult in the air. Darknms coming down low, getting held down by Hardkiller, but not quite enough damage to finish him. Oh! And he gets it with the ring bounce off the Bastion! Oh, but here comes Fenix. He blinks in on the Hardkiller. He's 1 HP and he finally goes down. Fenix getting stumped off by the Mercury. Are they going back in? Shards are getting popped. That looks like that's going to be it. I mean, a support for a mid lane. Is that worth it to you?
I think that's a good pickup for the Beastmasters. Your player that fell was a little bit lower level than the player that you got on the other side, so that's going to give you a little bit more gold. And plus, supports are kind of known for not having too much gold in their pockets at any time. Unfortunately for them, mid laners, however, really want to get those items on as quickly as possible, so the extra time wasted not being able to farm is going to hurt the Scylla much more than it'll hurt Maui.
Yeah, I tend to agree, especially with Maui at the time being 0-1 and Scylla being 1-0. It's definitely worth it for Beastmasters. See some grouping around oracles. It doesn't look like they're wanting to full commit to any sort of fight, but Soulzc dashing, or excuse me, sashing, forcing the beads out of Asian. Chronos ult forced out. Looks like he will be safe unless Virtually can find a nice ult here. Doesn't quite connect, but Landfall does. Asian dropping quickly. Not quite enough damage though, and Whirlwind of Rage. Beautiful double ult into the tower. And he's quickly able to dash out though. And just not quite enough follow-up. Oh! Dark with the beautiful crash, but he's taken into there quickly by Soulzc. And now, Scylla getting very, very low. Able to escape out. Goes into I'm a Monster for a little bit more speed. Is able to safely retreat. And looks like that is all she wrote as far as this engage is concerned. Maybe not though. Is Fenix maybe going around? No, looks like he's potentially just going for an invade. Definitely playing a little more wisely. Does look like he gets pinged out though. But I don't think they're in any position right now. But Maui looks like he spots him out potentially. Not
Does
quite.
that
He's
look like
going for this. He's going for this invade.
Doesn't look like the Maui's going to be there in time to stop most of the XP from falling to Fenix, and he will end up securing the yellow buff. Very aggressive play from Fenix here. About to get caught out by 3.
Deja vu. He's forced to fatal strike away. This time he seems to have escaped with his life though.
He not only got the buff this time, but also escaped alive. But it might come in the form of a solo
Down
kill
the
in
right
solo.
lane. Oh no, that is not what you want to see. Oh, that must feel very, very bad for Deputy. I'm sure Nico's quite feeling himself with that one there. Beautiful play by Nico.
That's going to be a really important solo kill for the Kukulin. That's really going to give him the extra edge. Not only was he already a little bit in the lead, but that also drops the first tower of the game. That's going to be a lot of extra money in the pockets of Highlanders.
And it's felt like in Season 10, just the way the map is laid out, towers feel a little bit further apart. It seems like these early tower drops tend to be considerably more impactful than even in Season 9.
It really does open up the styles of play that you can get, and if you have enough of a lead, like Nico does here, you can also get really aggressive with trying to catch some of those roaming backcamps. The only issue is dropping a tower too early opens up a little bit easier farming for the members of Beastmaster.
Yeah, definitely. If your lane is pushed up super far, definitely risky for you to be pushed up and trying to get those. But I'm sure Nico's quite feeling himself. 2 items online, magical and physical defense. He's not got too much to worry about right now.
That will be a little bit of an aggression to clear out the wards surrounding that Pyromancer. Phoenix will get away with it, and there is a little bit of a scuffle here in the mid lane, but so far, not too much damage. Except for Soul.
Soulzc definitely getting the hurt on when it comes to those crushes. Those things are no joke. So, as we mentioned, can absolutely pump out damage. Lucent forced to ult away, kind of waste the Chronos Blink. So, I mean, when you're Jing Wei, you're definitely no stranger to having to ult away to safety. So, I'm sure he's not too upset.
This is true. It is the early laning phase. It's not uncommon to have to ult out just for some safety. Jingwei is known for that farming, and it seems to be going quite well. A little bit ahead in the XP game against ALittleBitAsian.
For sure. Man, we just see Dark just pumping out so much poke. We see 4 members of Highlander grouped up onto this Gold Fury. Beastmaster a little bit spread out. They're gonna have a tough time trying to steal this, but virtually charging up that Mercury ult. Highlander secures the Gold Fury, and now they're in. Fenix dropping down low in the back line. Naja ult into the sky. Lucent pumping out the damage onto Fenix. Deputy shuts him down. Soulzc trying to escape, not quite able to find it. Dark able to dash out just in the nick of time. Overall, a really, really nice play by Highlander, but it isn't over yet. Let's Whirlwind of Rage finds 2, forces the beats out of Lucent, but might be too little too late as Lucent dropping very low. Nico picks him up. Asian getting aggressive onto HARDkILLER. Is he going to be able to escape? Will he be able to dash over the wall? Nico blinks in. Under the tier 2, doesn't matter. He gets shut down.
That's going to be a very big pickup for the Highlanders. They used to be about 4,500 ahead in the gold. Now, that's a little bit closer to 6.5k. They are feeling very good. 8-3 on the kills. Highlanders in the lead. They're taking the driver's seat of this game, and they're taking off.
Yeah, and with that tier 1 tower dropping, ticking over to the 7k gold lead in favor of Highlanders. Highlanders are definitely in control of this game. Virtually does force out the beats of Dark, so definitely some gank potential there. Very vulnerable to a Naja and a Mercury if your bees are down, so I imagine Dark is going to try to play a little bit safe.
I would imagine too, it's probably a good idea to keep your extra distance wherever you can, get those wards as far into the jungle as possible, especially when you've got 2 junglers.
He's getting caught out. He's done for. Ninja ult finishes him off, doesn't even have to drop down. She'll die right in the sky, just chilling there. And looks like Highlander able to get a pyro from that game as well.
This is especially important for the Beastmasters because this is what's going to help them get themselves back into a position of power for this game. Getting those objectives as early as they can and wherever they can will be paramount to really lessening the lead.
Yeah, I agree. Whoa, HARDkILLER here. Taking some damage. It doesn't look like anything is going to be able to come out of it. No ults exchanged. HARDkILLER would just simply walk away. And yeah, I agree. Beastmasters seem to be doing a good job of just finding little openings where they can, forcing out a solo ult and then trying to camping. But Fenix, not quite too happy with that, blinks in. Just not nearly enough damage, but here comes Asian over the wall, blinks in, Whirlwind of Rage, finds 2, and the Fatal Strike finishes him off. Soulzc going down soon, not quite able to find it, but it doesn't matter as they are shut down quickly. Oh, virtually getting some damage onto Fenix, but damage onto himself as well as Crush, and Nico finishes him off. That is 3 down on the side of Beastmasters. Wow.
What a heroic effort from Virtually to try and get something out of it, but unfortunately, it was an ill-fated effort running into 5 of the Highlanders strong. This is going to open up Fire Giant for them after getting a solid number of kills.
There's absolutely nothing Beastmaster can do to stop this. There's not very many of them alive. Xingwei is pushing the tier 2. Maui far, far away. Very good map play by Highlanders. And honestly, if failed hero plays doesn't perfectly describe my entire Smite career, I don't know what does. And yeah, Highlanders secure the Fire Giant. They're getting aggressive onto HARDkILLER here. If they decide to ultimately back off, take their leave, go finish off some of their items, and start to get pushing for some of these tier 2s.
I think it's a good idea to go ahead and back. You've got plenty of money in your pocket after multiple kills, a tower, and an objective like Fire Giant. You want to spend it up, make sure you've got all your items finished, because now you have an even bigger lead against the other team. So the Beastmasters, already on the back foot, are going to be playing some hardcore defense. They don't have too many opportunities to get aggressive here, especially with this Oni Fury.
You know, she grouping around it. Definitely not the position Beastmaster want to be in with so many of them around us with the Fire Giant buff. This could spell trouble for Beastmasters if they decide to take this fight.
It's definitely a valiant effort of them to try and get themselves back into this game, not giving up objectives too easily, still trying to assert their silence.
Soulzc ulting onto Fenix there. He gets really, really low. Knockups are there. Oh, and virtually with the Mercurial from downtown. No, he's not able to finish him off. He goes down. No. Fenix gets off on a hair HP. Whirlwind of Rage finds Hardkiller. Soulzc goes down as well in the back to Asian. And Hardkiller not long after Lucent getting chased down. His ult is down. There's not much life left in the Beastmasters.
That was such a tragic sight. That was a beautiful Mercury ult. Going from tower to catch out Fenix. Got him so low, but unfortunately the Highlanders were there with the peel. They're here to show up for their teammate. And man, does that come at a hefty cost for the Beastmasters.
Definitely, they lost a lot of members. Lost the middle lane Fenix. Looking like they're going to swiftly lose this tier 2 tower of left side as well. Man, this is not the position Beastmasters want to be in. As I was saying, just trying to take that fight against Highlanders, who's very, very strong, has a significant gold advantage and Fire Giant buff. I mean, we knew the outcome of that fight as soon as it started.
It is definitely unfortunate for the Beastmasters. The Highlanders are really in the driver's seat right now, so it's going to be really difficult for the Beastmasters to try and get themselves back in. All they can really do is farm and take it as late as possible to catch up. The good news for the Beastmasters is they do have quite a bit of CC on their team, so they can use that extra crowd control to really slow down the Highlanders and take advantage of the synergies that they have. And as we've seen, they're not lacking for talent.
For sure, and you know, one thing that's definitely to be said about Beastmasters, if they are able to hold out, I mean, they have a Jingwei and a Mercury. They're going to be absolutely pumping out numbers, hit, you know, 30, 35, however many minutes it takes, because as soon as they're full build, they're going to chunk.
Chunk they will. My question is, will Maui be able to make a difference with both consumable slots held up by those pyromancer? That's definitely an interesting sight that you don't see too often, but maybe he's just a man with a plan.
Yeah, I've seen junglers solo Phoenixes with 2 bombs. They can definitely put out some damage if they're able to knock down some of these tier 1s. I think having to use it on a tier 1 would be very unfortunate given just how much damage it can do to tier 2s and again, even Phoenixes. It's definitely a good point out. Highlander grouping up for Fire Giant though. Beastmaster's not quite in a position quite yet. As we see Mercury in the mid lane. It looks like it's going to start to get pulled by Highlander.
It'll be interesting to see how Maui uses those, since normally you see it split 1-1, since now Maui can't hold any wards.
Oh my lord, Soulzc in the back absolutely exploded. Definitely in over his head. It was practically a 3 versus 1. And speaking of 3 versus 1, Nico is not afraid. Whirlwind of Rage finishes off Lucent, gets 2 more in there. And Nico barely at half HP. Deputy barely able to escape with his life. Can't say the same for Hardkiller, but virtually holding in, but too little too late as he falls just under threshold and Fatal Strike finishes him off. Deputy not long after this Fenix picks up a double kill, and that is a deicide for Highlander.
Yet again, we see a beautiful Mercury ult, getting a beautiful stun, really trying to help out his team to try and secure one of those kills. The sad news is, as great as it is to see those pop in, it's not working out too well. 0-4-2. This isn't Virtually's best game, but he is certainly showing he's got promise that he can work with his team pretty well. Unfortunately for them, Highlanders have this one under control.
Beastmaster's trying to hold on whatever they can, and Highlander health bars are looking low. Soulzc goes down, however, Fenix is not afraid. He is in, and Titan's health bar is just as low. Not quite able to defend their Titan as Highlander take game number 1.
That would be a beautiful performance from Highlanders, really showing they know how to hold on to the lead and press it. Unfortunately, Beastmaster's not able to get themselves back in, but we can certainly see what kind of adjustments they can make in game number 2.
Yeah, not quite able to hold out to the late game as I was hoping for, as Beastmaster fans were hoping for. You know, we kind of saw Beastmaster doing a very, very different style of draft. You think that they kind of have the chance to run it back, or do you think they should just go for a more traditional style in game 2?
I think it's possible that they end up going for a more traditional style, but to say that this comp that they chose in game 1 didn't work at all would be a little bit incorrect, I think. It certainly had its advantages, especially with how often we saw those 2 assassins getting really aggressive and dealing a lot of damage to the mid laner. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out this time.
Yeah, Soulzc was looking pretty clean on that Najah. It's not quite as great a team fight as I think that Highlander's comp was. But you know what? We'll see what they decide to do in game 2. I'm Cosmic, joined by Jeering. Join us in the next game.
I'm taking shots at the enemy. I'm gonna make it to the top, leave a legacy. If I got something to say, you better let me speak. Turn it up a new degree, bitch, you ain't seen anything. I pop off with the new rock, electronic, blow the sonic roof up. I'm too honest when I take a few shots. They're too toxic, need to take the noose off. And you cannot save me, 'cause I don't need saving. It's everything I've been chasing, all here for the taking. wanna test your luck with me? I think I've had enough disease. I'm sick of all the bad thoughts, people who are half-nots. You are not as tough as I'm back, you know that I never left. I got tracks and some music that you never guessed.
And we are back with game number 2 of Highlander versus Beastmasters. I'm still Cosmic Warrior, joined by Jeering, and I'm looking forward to this game 2. We saw a phenomenal performance by Highlander in game number 1.
Absolutely. Highlander took the driver's seat pretty early on, kept driving, and just left nothing but dust in their wake. Unfortunately for Beastmasters, it wasn't their best showing, but this is another game. This is game number 2. They have another opportunity to make a name for themselves.
Absolutely. And we see very similar bans to what we saw in the first game. Looks like Beastmaster opting to ban the Mercury instead of picking it this time, but otherwise, very, very similar bans to last game.
It is very, very similar. I'm interested to see, does Highlander want to ban out the Maui? Do they want to pick that up? They don't ban it, so I'm interested to see, will the Maui get picked early on again?
The Fenrir. Fenrir has been absolutely dominant in ranked conquest. He has been a permaban, and if he doesn't get permaban, we see him top picked like we do, or like we just see him right now.
The question is, how will Highlanders respond to this? They took an early lead from their aggression last time, but how will they handle the Fenrir, who's great at doing exactly what they tried to do?
It's gonna be a very good question. I don't think they're quite too worried about Heart Killer on the Maui. It didn't seem like it was causing them too much problems in game number 1. So I wonder how they're gonna, go about this pick. How they're gonna deal with the Fenrir, as it can be an absolute powerhouse in any comp. Whether they're just gonna, try to run it back, go with the same stellar jet that they did last time with, the warrior jungle, or if they're gonna swap it up.
I don't think they're going to swap it up too much since it worked out so well for them last time, as we see Kronos and Cuchulainn in the top 2 yet again, but this time, a little bit of a switch up, Achilles taken by the Beastmasters.
I think they were not wanting to deal with that. Phoenix on Highlander was being absolutely super accurate with his fatal strikes, being a huge problem, getting very aggressive all game long, and they don't want to have to deal with that one again. And we see the Morgan getting picked up. We saw some Morgan nerfs back in season 9. It hasn't been too high a priority. And even now in season 10, tablet being a very strong item, you can't really build it on the Morgan due to the bug. Very unfortunate. But I think she still has some pretty good transformations. What do you think?
I think it's especially good considering the fact that they already have the Fenrir on their team, so if you can catch a beads pretty early on, nation into the Ragnarok is going to be really deadly for anybody who doesn't have a CC immune ult.
Definitely, very, very well said. I think that is exactly what they were thinking. Potentially even transforming into an Achilles. Ooh,
I'm sorry.
Arachne. No problem. I'm just as surprised to see that as you are. Do you think Highlander are getting a bit of an ego here, or do they they have something in mind with this one?
I think surprise was the correct word to use here. I genuinely don't remember seeing an Arachne in a game for quite some time. I'm gonna be honest. I did not expect to see that at all. I was expecting maybe we'll see something that has a lot more aggression to shut down the Fenrir. Maybe pick up something like an Ardio who can cripple to shut down the Fenrir, make his life a lot harder. Maybe even pick up the Maui to prevent those dives. Nope, Arachne.
Arachne indeed. Not the strongest jungler in the game, and in such a strong role, you think it's something that would be highly prioritized. She doesn't do well with Bluestone. Definitely not a Bluestone user. Definitely gonna be having to go Eye of Jungle. Can't really do anything cheeky with the spiders before the buffs start, just due to the way the buffs are now. So yeah, definitely not something we'd see. But that wraps up our first picks going into the second bans. We see Ybir and Scylla. What are you thinking?
I think Scylla was a good call here. The Beastmasters were running into a lot of trouble against that Scylla. The massive damage output from just Crush alone was so astronomically high, you were seeing people's health bar almost entirely disappear by the time she was level 10.
Absolutely, and even early on, we saw some early ganks or aggressions from Scylla. Some really good I'm a monster on that first left side gank. Followed up, we see emojis. Looks like they're definitely uh, aiming towards the supports. Definitely some high pressure, high priority supports. We've seen Lucent, if Lucent is going to be on support this time, do something absolutely devious on the Emoja, but it might be Lucent on ADC again. And to finish off the bans, we do finally see that Maui ban that you've been talking about this whole time.
I was wondering if that was going to be a choice just because getting that cripple and vortex is so good against somebody like a Fenrir, entirely shutting down his mobility, which is his key factor in his kit, really makes it difficult for him to dive or do anything, especially with a landfall completely blocking off entire parts of the map. I think it's a good idea to get rid of that, just in case they tried to pick it.
Yeah, I agree. We see Baba Yaga getting locked in. Honestly, I think Baba Yaga may be a little undervalued in the mid lane, being able to do so well with stacking items that are super meta right now. Um, you know, Book of Thoth being super good, and even the new tablet, very very strong, high priority pick. I believe. I mean, hasn't been shown to me yet, but we'll see.
I have to agree, Baba Yaga is probably one of my favorite choices for what I would put in the underrated burst section. Baba Yaga has not seen too many preeminent positions since her fantastic release, I'll say. But ever since then, steadily improving herself. She's now in a position where a single ability in the late game can out DPS just about any other character. So we'll see how that interesting late game transition will work for the Highlanders.
And we see Apollo finishing off the draft for Beastmaster, not the highest priority hunter, with the likes, Oleron still being up, even higher priority hunters such as Ishtar or even Rama. And on the side of Highlander, we see a Geb finishing him off, potentially saving someone from a very nice, well placed Ragnarok, perhaps a double Ragnarok combo. But yeah, we're gonna see which one of these drafts comes out on top in game number two. I'm Cosmic, joined by Jeering. Join us shortly.
taking shots at the enemy.
Welcome back. We are starting off in game number 2 of Beastmaster versus Highlander in the Immortal Division Scouting Grounds. It is again Cosmic Warrior joined by Jeering. And I'm looking forward to this game number 2. Looks like Beastmaster switching up their draft, close to their double assassin comp they had last time. I think Mage is just so strong right now that I believe this is the correct way to go.
I think it'll be an interesting game for sure. We see 2 global ults plus a Morgan to top it off.
True.
This is a lot of mobility from the Beastmasters. Maybe they're going to take that extra aggression that they get from that through the roof to really press against the Highlanders early game.
Cheeky double taunt coming out from HARDkiller, and Soulzc dashing in, putting a nice bit of damage on Heavy over here, and we see Arachne getting the first blood of this game. Can't quite say that's where I expected that jungle pick to end up, but man, those I'm gonna be honest, those cringe ganks in the beginning can be absolutely deadly if you're not looking out for them. But here comes first anyway. Nice stun on the WarCrier. Beautiful taunt. Forces out the beads, but it's not enough. As Soulzc picks up the kill over here in the dual lane.
Those time rifts just not quite enough to keep them at bay. And right as you were saying cringe gank, talking about Arachne, we see a wild Fenrir appear in the dual lane. And for some reason, we see a double early kill, both in the dual lane and solo. This is going to be an interesting game for sure.
Yeah, as we mentioned in game 1, aggression just seems to be the name of the game as far as jungle is concerned. Here in season 10, I mean, yeah, one thing that's to be mentioned is they also were able to pick up the beads by him, so we might see virtually right back over there if he's able to get that Ragnarok online. Honestly, he might not even need it if he's able to get a stun with his runes on his one.
That is definitely a very powerful stun, and as we see another stun coming out of Soulzc in the dual lane, this could be a very, very interesting game. We're seeing a lot of aggression here. Speaking of, a solo kill going on the jungle.
Spiders! Oh!
Virtually.
Oh! Okay.
By the skin of his teeth.
I wasn't worried for a second.
That was a very, very close kill. Almost turned bad for Virtually, but man, that lifesteal on his stim is so good. Really came in clutch.
Definitely a little bit closer than you'd like to see, but I mean, Arachne has the 1v1 potential with her spiders. He wasn't quite able to hit some of those autos, getting blocked by those little spiders, but does able to finish off Arachne and able to live those cheeky spiders that got him ever so close to death. But yeah, good play by Virtually.
Close one. I'm sure Fenix is a little disappointed that happened, but sometimes things work. Fenix really made it work last game. Sometimes they don't work out too well. This time, Arachne just not going to be quite enough to get the kill. We'll see how they adjust and shift their focus moving in. It's now 3.5 minutes in, 2-1. Beastmaster is actually in the lead in kills, but Highlanders have the gold lead yet again.
Very true. We saw like practically the opposite thing. Ooh, Nico getting shut down. Looks like Ragnarok was used to pull him under tower. Deputy getting low though, but Nico does fall before he's able to get any sort of return kill. So I'm loving the way Virtually is playing right now. Getting very, very aggressive. That's what you want to see out of a Fenrir.
And he's definitely playing it well. 1, 0, and 2. Those assists are quite an extra buff to the early game. Already a level ahead of this Arachne, who just finished Golden Blade. Will that early aggression from Fenrir ganking the lanes be enough to keep up with the increased rate of farm Arachne will get?
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned many times, it tends to be a bit more about the gank potential as opposed to being able to farm up. That being said, Golden Blade does provide gank potential just because it gives movement speed, being very good for just about anything. Obviously, very core on to Arachne, as we see lots of aggression here in the dual lane. Deputy getting down to about half HP, and Nico feeling very, very healthy at near full. Wow, definitely showing the power of perhaps the difference in starters. Bluestone being so strong right now, not quite able to compete, and Nico being an entire having a full item, whereas Deputy only has a tier 2.
I think it's also worth noting, Nico has a transformation of Kukulkan. That ground slam does a lot of extra damage. It's really difficult to box a Kukulkan when he's enraged like that. So it's not surprising to see Deputy taking a little bit of damage and sacrificing a little bit of his early game pressure to help his team out.
Ooh, Fenix in for a cheeky thing. Immediately ult out. I was gonna say he might get caught out. Luckily, he does still have the ult up. Hard killer with the taunt onto the other Fenix. Oh, I think it might have been interrupted because that was definitely, or maybe it was something else I saw. I could have swore I saw him already taunt. Anyway, Fenix gets out just fine. Fenix also gets out just fine. Yeah, we're just seeing sort of a different play style. We saw virtually trying to aggress on a Fenix, where Phoenix was trying to go for a cheeky little invade there. They are really showing the different types of junglers that have been picked.
Definitely different types of junglers, and their playstyles are so thoroughly different, and yet we see the skill levels still relatively similar. Neither one necessarily changing the game more than the other, and I gotta love it. This is a close game that can be determined at any point by anybody, and it really comes down to how do they work together, because that's what Smite is all about, using that 5-player team to make the difference.
Absolutely, you said it. I mean, we'll definitely see more how these different style of junglers end up as we're getting closer and closer to the mid game. Still only 7 minutes in, safely, still very early on. Soulzc looking to get a little aggressive here. A lot of damage. Beats forced out, and here comes Athena ult. Heavy. Forced to ult out quickly. Tried to run away, but definitely right in the crutches. But we see a nice double stun from the Chronos. Taunt come in, but here is Fenix, and Fenix! This might have been a little over-aggressive as Fenix shuts down Soulzc very quickly. Hard killer trying to escape with his life, is able to dash away to safety. Virtually trying to come over, but doesn't look like he's gonna commit too heavily on anything. Potentially onto Dark here, right next to the screen buff. Might be ill-advised.
Definitely a little bit aggressive considering there are multiple members of Highlander around, and here we see virtually taking a lot of damage.
Does force out the beads from Fenix, but other than that, Baba Yaga ult used, but definitely could have ended up a lot worse for Beastmasters, I think. Obviously, Highlander definitely very happy with the kill that they got on the left side.
I think that Baba was pretty well timed, because that's exactly where virtually was headed. Home sweet home.
Oh, that was really good. Again, here we see
Thank you.
Deputy just getting his blue buff absolutely owned by Highlander. Hard killer wanting to do something about it, not too happy, but just isn't able to. There's just too much pressure from Highlander centered around this blue buff. I don't know if Deputy has gotten a blue buff since his first one, and it is definitely showing in his mana bar right now.
It is definitely unfortunate, but the bigger problem that comes with that mana disappearing, the levels are also going down the drain. Kukulkan now a level ahead, despite the fact that Deputy is 1-1-0 and Nicodrin is 0-1-1. Nico is actually ahead in the XP and also the farm. This could turn into a dangerous situation if Deputy can't get himself back in.
Yeah, definitely not the position you want to be, and I feel like it's going to be felt throughout the rest of the team as soon as these solo laners start to rotate. And oh my lord, Soulzc's going down so quickly, nearly dead. Oh, out by the skin of his teeth. Hard killer ulting in just in time, but he's taking so much damage himself. Oh, and Lucent ulting in as Athena. I thought it was a visual bug, but no, it was just a second Athena ult from Morgan. Ult already down. This heavy gets very, very low, but Fenix is here to bail his buddy out. And that looks like the end of that as far as Beastmaster's aggression is going. But oh, here comes Fenix! Oh, ult's in! But now he has no ult to escape as two members are trying to kill him, and Fenix dives to the tower in the backline as they dove hard killer. Wow, this is just going to show just the aggression that we've seen. Soulzc. Oh my lord, he dashed in just to get exploited. He can't be dashed into two mages. And Lucent might fall the same fate. Oh, oh my god. What a travesty for Beastmasters.
They removed it in a few patches back. No more juke shoes, and unfortunately that will spell the demise for Lucent. While all that was happening, we also saw Virtually fall over in the solo lane.
Oh, did we?
Feeling quite good for himself.
Absolutely. We see about a 4K gold lead in the way of Highlander. You know, it was a really, really good opportunity for Highlander, I think, to potentially go for a gold fury. Doesn't look like they were doing it. Perhaps some of their health bars a little too low. Oh, he got his blue buff. He got his blue buff. That's huge. Virtually blinking and brutalized onto Nico. Nico still transformed though. Don't know how much longer. Ragnarok not up, and Nico will simply walk away. Yeah, look at that damage. Dark.
I love to say it, Baba is such a good burst mage. I feel she's kind of underrated right now. But here we see Fenix getting aggressive on Virtually.
Again, Virtually very low. Has to ult away. Actually going back in. Beats Force out of Fenix. Both being very low, but Fenix ultimately gets Virtually. Now, oh, this is a bad position for Beastmaster to be in. Hopefully they're both fairly tanky. Here comes Morgan. Athena ulting in. HARDkILLER eating that entire Baba Yaga ult. And oh, in the backline, Deputy shutting down Fenix. It's not all over for Beastmasters. They still have a bit of life left in them. But Deputy needs to get out of there. This is currently a 3v1. Perhaps Lucent coming back in to help bail out his buddy. Has some damage to deal. But oh, so does Dark. And that Baba Yaga potion burst is so insane. And now Lucent is paying the price for trying to help out his team member.
Definitely an unfortunate turn of events for the Beastmasters. They were getting very aggressive, virtually almost diving tower. But the Highlanders have their rotations on lock, even without those global ultimates, came to the defense of their teammate, and unfortunately Defender of Olympus was not enough to get them out of dodge. Now, the gold lead soaring all the way up to 5,000. Highlanders looking to have a little bit of a repeat of last game.
Yeah, nearly 6,000, yeah. Not looking great for Beastmasters. And as you said, you know, despite the global presence that Beastmasters carry, Highlander tend to be at every single fight before even Beastmasters are. And I think soon this is going to translate into objective takes, perhaps Gold Fury. What do you think the Highlanders should be focused on now that they're in the lead and have a solid, strong foothold over the Beastmasters?
Once they've got that lead, the most important thing that they can do is take every objective that they can on the map. Make sure the Beastmasters don't have any farm available to get themselves back into the game. The most important thing of a snowball is to exert that presence to prevent the other team from farming. Right now, Beastmasters are able to do a little bit of their own farming, but if the Highlanders get a little bit more aggressive like they are on Virtually...
Virtually getting low, but it is a 2v1. Fenix forced to ult out, but not before dealing tons of damage, really just showing his prowess to Virtually. I mean, that would have ended pretty poorly for Virtually if his team wasn't there. We saw Defender of Olympus come out, but ultimately, Fenix had to just get out of dodge, and he does without hesitation.
It's definitely a good trade, baiting out the Defender of Olympus to prevent any of those plays from happening aggressively. That's a lot of resources taken off the table for Beastmasters. It's going to be a lot harder for them to pull off any of those rotations, to maybe show a little bit of face in solo lane, and then everybody ults over to take Gold Fury away. So it's definitely a value play, I think, for Fenix to get that out.
I agree. You know, we haven't quite really been seeing... Oh my lord. 3 autos and this man is half HP. Soulzc getting super low. Beads forced out, however. And here comes Fenix. I think Soulzc is going to drop quickly, and absolutely he does. That's just not the 1v1 you want to be taking. Kronos can absolutely dish out tons and tons of damage at this stage of the game with Polyon. No, that's Cyclopean Ring. I thought that was Polyon cooldown there. My mistake.
The good news is this is actually a different Chronos from the previous game. This is HeavyWarCrier instead of ALittleBitAsian, but the result seems to be pretty similar. The Chronos taking a very, very powerful position.
Ooh.
Meanwhile, the Highlanders exerting that presence around the Pyromancer.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an absolute masterclass by Highlander. The Beastmaster's trying to secure that Pyro after they took Gold Fury, but they weren't quite quick enough as Highlander end up securing the Pyromancer for their ult, forcing virtually out in Ragnarok. Fenix is low, but he's in the web as Arachne ult comes down. Beautiful ults by Nico here. Dark pumping out tons of damage. This hard killer is ever so low, as well as Ducky. Lucent transformation down, but oh, Deputy able to get off the fatal strike, bail out his teammate. He's had enough. He's getting out of there. Beautiful taunt by hard killer, but Nico doesn't stop him. It doesn't stop Dark either, as hard killer drops very quickly. Deputy gonna be soon after. Oh, the jukes doesn't matter. Oh, the damage from Highlander is just too much.
Definitely be a very big and very important fight for the Highlanders. Beastmaster's now down 4 members. The only one left alive is Soul, trying to push up those towers, get a little bit of money in his team's pocket. Meanwhile, the Highlanders have enough time to go ahead and start the Fire Giant. Is in danger of taking a lot of damage from Fenix. We speeds get popped, taking a lot of damage on both sides. That Aussie and Odysseus' bow do quite a bit of damage. Meanwhile, the Fire Giant taking more damage, almost the same damage as Dark, but they will be able to survive. And now 5 members strong with the Fire Giant around their belts. Highlanders in the driver's seat once again.
Absolutely, and you know, it's felt like Beastmasters hasn't really been doing what their draft has been designed to do. I mean, we've seen Lucent ulting into fights as Athena, but we haven't really been seeing double Ragnaroks. We haven't seen like Athena taunts getting down beads followed up by either just a regular Ragnarok or a Morrigan ult into a Ragnarok. Just seems like, as I was saying, Beastmasters just not doing what they designed their draft to do, and what you were hoping to see, as you had mentioned in Picks and Fantasy. Oh, but the damage from Fenix is just too great. Dark finishes him off, but here comes the Ragnarok. But oh, there's just so much health that Fenix has. Very easily able to ult out Aegis Force, but it doesn't matter. It's virtually falls, and so does Hard Killer. They just can't keep up with this damage. They're just in no position to fight them when they have 5 members with the Fire Giant buff. Now 5 of them grouped around the tier 2, looking towards that Fenix. It's Soulzc versus the world. Deputy does tick over to the respawn. The Fenix blinks in. Aegis quickly forced out of Soulzc, and oh my god, he is just gone. There's nothing remaining of Soulzc.
We have an official enemy missing. We've got David Copperfield on the field. That was a disappearing act from Soulzc. Dark really showing what Baba Yaga is for. That was a massive damage output. Beautiful setup from the team. Highlanders really showing what their team is made of here. Definitely a good look for all of their players. Unfortunately, Fenix isn't on the draft board, but the rest of them, well, any captains listening, you can certainly take notes.
Actually, Fenix is on the draft board. We're talking about Fenix with a Y.
Well, there's 2 Fenix.
Actually, there's 6. There's 9. Wait, no, 7. Wait, 8 Phoenixes. I can do math. Actually, no, there's 7 because 1's down. No, that wasn't funny. I'm sorry. Highlander taking the Oni Fury. Definitely going to be difficult for Beastmaster to deal with. Just so much pressure already being exerted by Highlanders, and now with the Oni waves getting forced down their throats, they're going to be in for a world of hurt.
Definitely going to be difficult for the Beastmasters to claw their way back into this game. We see quite a commanding presence. Almost a 13,000 gold lead for the Highlanders. That's a pretty solid lead, and they've got the XP to back it up. The Highlanders really showing what they're made of. Beastmasters, unfortunately, just not able to find the synergy that they're hoping for. They're definitely going to have to take a step back, reevaluate, and say, look, something's got to change.
Beastmaster's trying to pull a sneaky pyro, but Highlander in every position to defend it and likely take it for themselves. Definitely going to aid them and sieging some more Phoenixes. Still, all 5 members with the Fire Giant buff. Don't know how much longer that'll last, as Fire Giant will be spawning again fairly soon. Looks like the grouping on the right side wanting to finish off that last tier 2 and completely open the gates for any sort of Phoenix siege.
Yeah, this is the time for Beastmasters to do whatever farming they can, because there's not much time left. Fire Giant spawning in less than 30 seconds as Deputy getting caught out by Phoenix.
Tons and tons of damage just from little poke engages from Highlander. I mean, we saw double Baba Potion putting Lucent at just above half health, and same for Virtually. We saw Phoenix able to shred Deputy, who's a tank, down extremely hard. And their Phoenix just did not last a second, and neither did Lucent. As Phoenix completely shuts him down. Deputy not shortly after, and this is not looking good for the Beastmaster, so they're making their way into the throne room. Oh,
Beastmaster
the rest
is
of
not
Beastmasters going down. They're not able to defend it as Titan's HP bars steadily dropping despite the most valiant of effort from Beastmaster. Highlander take this one in a 2-0.
Just no escape for the members of Beastmaster. They were barely able to step out of Fountain without taking a massive amount of damage. Unfortunately, their Titan fared even worse, and the Highlanders will claim a second victory in a row, claiming victory in this set 2-0. Beautiful performance from them.
You know, when it's the scouting grounds, it's not so much about win versus loss. It's more about how you play it individually, how you're able to adapt to the way your team is playing and whatnot. So, who stands out to you today on Highlander or even the Beastmasters, that you think some of these coaches are going to be looking to pick up into their draft?
I think both teams certainly had their strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, Highlander had a little bit more strength to pull off because they did end up winning the set 2-0. But to say that Beastmasters didn't have any talent at all would be a little bit unfair to them. And I think you also got to give props to Virtually, especially in this game number 2. In the early game, he was really popping off a little bit, showing why he's here to play. These are scouting grounds, and he wanted to make a name for himself. I think he did pretty well of it.
Yeah, I agree. You know, Phoenix obviously doing very, very well. Fortunately, not eligible for the draft. Talking about Phoenix without the Y. Phoenix with the Y did do very well and is available for the draft. Dark as well looked very, very strong, going 6-0 on Baba Yaga, and the damage he was able to pump out at all stages of the game was absolutely ridiculous. But hey, that's just the way Scouting Ground goes sometimes. This has been the Immortal Division. It's been Cosmic Warrior. It's been Jeering. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again soon on the Smite Draft League.